What up everyone, True Blue here, and today, welcome to the Desire Grand Prix. And in Kamen Rider Geats, the Desire Grand Prix returns. I'm making another Kamen Rider game. Everyone talks about it on Twitter, that Kamen Rider Geats would make a phenomenal shooter, battle royale, whatever the case. I decided that I would make my own. Share it with you guys, have some fun. And I totally did not just spend like half an hour recording this and then realized my mic was muted. This isn't just a Kamen Rider game that's a shooter. This isn't some big Kamen Rider crossover where everyone has some form of blaster. This is what I would say would be the best way to incorporate the Desire Grand Prix and the game elements of Geats into a video game format. And when I mean video game format, I mean I literally mapped it out on a controller. So what exactly is this game? It's not something I've really seen or heard of before, so I just labeled it as a 3D online arena fighter. There's some like MMO elements, there's a lot of luck, like it's very much not this, but I didn't know how else to describe it. If anything, it's closer to like a multiplayer Dynasty Warriors, but like again. So I'll give you the general premise before I get into things a bit more deeper. So you'll be spawned into a map, some general map, and you're going to be given an objective, alongside some bonus challenges for additional points. Your goal is to complete this while versing 24 other players, meaning 25 player matches. You can either work together, mess them up, or even defeat them, but there will be consequences for any of these actions, of course. And throughout this, you have to deal with the RNG that is random loot boxes, as they are what grant you your rider abilities. So if you know Geats, you know that was just the Desire Grand Prix I described in some way, shape, or form. But how? Well, for one, what does it take to be a rider? That's a great starting point. And if we're talking games, we need a controller. I'm showing you the controller I will be referencing for this conversation only because I'm a Nintendo player. We have different face buttons, so I just want to clarify that. I'll put an image on screen, of course, for those who are PlayStation or Xbox, but I just want to throw that out there. So when you are a rider, what can you do? Well, with the left stick, that'll be your general movement, up, back, whatever the case. You can click it to crouch. The D-pad, left and right, will act as a swap. So if you have any buckles or an extra buckle which can be held on your side, you can swap between them with left and right on the D-pad. Up will be a taunt button, some taunts based off of character posing from the show. And down you can untransform and be just a human. Your right stick will be your general camera controls, and then A and B are going to be hand and leg attacks respectively. So you can do punching combos or kicking combos or a mix between them. It allows for a lot of variety, and since you can have a buckle on each, they may have different movesets depending on. X will be your jump button, allowing for aerial movement, and Y, you'll be able to unequip your current gear so you can drop it or just toss it for whatever purpose. L is a slide button, so while you're moving you can hit L and you can just start sledding around a bit, do some cool movement. And then R will be your revolve on button. The Desire driver allows for users to hit the top button and swing it around so your top half and lower half switch places and grant different armor bits, of course. So that is here through the R button. Lastly, ZL grants a dodge. You can roll around a bit so no one hits you. And then ZR is a gear ability. For your bigger buckles, they'll have special secret abilities based off of their gimmicks and stuff. Each one may have a special move, additional movement option, whatever the case. That depends on your buckle, and it's whatever the top buckle is. Your bottom buckle will just be attacks. Lastly, you can perform a rider kick if you jump with X and then hit ZL and ZR at the same time. Your rider kick will be based off of your bottom one, so if you have something equipped, it may be special, or it may be just a general one if there's nothing there. These are 25 player matches, and between them, you'll have 5 maps. 10, if you want to count a day and night version as separate. It'll be the same map, just visually different, so it's a bit more variety. I would picture they take the forest from episode 1, that's a very big area they use every so often, the castle from the Fever Slot introductory, as well as the general town civilian areas we see all the time, the old-style feudal Japan town from the Boost Mark II debut, and some form of canyon, as that is a very common locale in Tokusatsu. Throughout your time as a participant in Desire Grand Prix, you'll have tons of different objectives, which include defeating the Dramato boss. You'll have some Dramato, you have to get through them, and then you get to a big boss guy that you need to defeat for that number 1. Save the people. There will be various civilians scattered throughout the map that you need to protect and save so they can get to safety and not be killed by the Dramato. From like the midpoint of the show, if we have that Dramato ball game that Tycoon was got here at, that would be fun. Could be team-based as well. Some form of escort mission. I based this off of the crossover with Revise, where they had to escort the little baby demon. Some form of escort mission with a character, buckle, whatever the case. A race mode, which I took from the Hyper Battle DVD. So you have to compete to reach your destination before your opponents. The zombie game from Nago's first big episode. That was always like a standout to me because that always seems like an interesting one to incorporate into the show. So I'd like to see that as a mission in the game. And lastly, Kick the Can. If you remember that annoying Dramato that they couldn't really beat for a while because it was powering up from its little can, that's one of the games. And these missions are all encompassed in the various modes of the game. There are 3 modes that I've written here that would be in the game. Your Desire Grand Prix, your Dramato Grand Prix, and the Desire Royal. I'm going to get that one out of the way first because that's the simplest one. It's just a battle royale. You're dropped into a map, there's random loot boxes, you have to be the last one standing. It's a very simple concept. Now, the Desire Grand Prix. You will have 3 to 5 games where you have to score the most points based off of what you do to win. You can't directly attack the players in this mode, as that will net you negative, lose points. And overall, the games are going to be the easier ones, and they'll be more like team-based, so like you'll be paired with people rather than going solo. On top of that, the opponents will generally be weaker. Now, for the mode that I think would be the most played, the Dramato Grand Prix. This would allow you to kill the players now, which would net you points instead. Solo games are more common, so it's all on you to win. And the enemies are stronger, including the bosses, which would have rare counterparts, and those rare guys would be former Kamen Riders. So you may actually have to fight Geats for a mission, or get stopped by Tycoon and Buffa. Or heck, maybe you have to fight Glare or Gazer, or Jin, or maybe one of the massive other future riders that we got in Geats. I don't know, it'd be fun. Obviously in Geats, the riders never really had a consistent set of powers thanks to the randomness that was the raise buckles, and the fact that they would be given literally by loot boxes. So each buckle will have, weapon, some stat boost maybe, additional features, maybe extra movement options, whatever the case. The ones I wrote down personally were an aim mode, so any projectiles could have an extra target or reticle that would help with aiming. Some form of glide hover mechanics, so you could slow down your descent. A wall climb, so you can reach spots without finding other ways around or parkouring up there. And a guard, so instead of just always having to move to dodge, you can stand still and take a hit, so you can combo out of that instead. And these are granted through the raise buckles, which, there's a lot. In Geats alone, there was a lot, and I added on to the list that was already in Geats, so there's a lot to go through, so I'm going to kind of blast through this. Now, I did this based off of the rarity, so I'm going to be starting with the least rare, and then go all the way up to the most rare. So, I will go over first the common buckles, which, unlike every other buckle on the list, doesn't give stat boost, and doesn't have any special rider kicks. These are just additional weapons and or movesets to help you fight off the Dramato and other players. There's the Era Buckle, which grants aim, Hammer, Water, Shield, which grants guard, Chain Array, Claw, which grants wall climb, Drill, Propeller, which grants glide, then Gigant's Hammer, Gigant's Blaster, and Gigant's Sword. Blaster, of course, grants aim. Obviously, we saw the other ones, the first batch in the show itself. The Gigant ones we only ever saw with Power Builder, but they are still just normal buckles technically, so they could be used on their own, and I think it'd be fun if we got to see that in the game itself. Now for unlockables. I'll explain how those work later, but your unlockable common buckles are the Magnum Shooter 40X, Ninja Dueler, Zombie Breaker, B-Axe. These are the weapons that are paired with our main set of riders, and you can get solo versions, so without getting the necessarily buffs or boost from those various other buckles, you can still get the weapons and those movesets in an easier way, as they're now common. And not uncommon, which is where they usually sit. For your uncommon buckles, you have Magnum, which grants aim, Zombie, Ninja, Monster, which grants guard, Beat, and the Fever slot, with a special gimmick where you're allowed to re-roll your abilities and get random buckles. And those loot tables are the same as the normal drop rates, they're just lower overall, so you're more likely to get the commons, and it's far harder to get the rares. For these buckles, there are unlockables as well, 3 of which are recolors. A recolor of Ninja based off the Shinobi buckle, which I know is different, but the suit is just a purple recolor, so we can use that as well. Based off the pack-in bonus, if you bought the Trust Last CD, the Beat theme song, which is just a black and white version of Beat, and a Silver Zombie for Poison Rage, because I couldn't incorporate that anywhere else, and I thought it'd be fitting if just tacked on. Lastly, we have the Ryuki and Oja buckles, also from the Hyper Battle DVD, because they're cool, and I'm going to be honest, if they weren't in the game, I'd just be upset. They're just too cool to miss out. And one final one, the Spear buckle. This is based off an unused sound found with the Desire driver, and this would be something new exclusive to the game. I think it'd be fun. Let me know what you think about that. I'll get into more why it's here specifically later on. Now for your rare buckles. These are definitely the stronger ones that you're going to be mostly going for throughout the rounds. You have Boost, which grants Glide, Powered Builder, Command Twin, and Boost Mark II. Command Twin, obviously having 2 different modes taking up both slots, you can glide and aim when fully in use, and Boost Mark II would grant Glide when you're not in the animal mode, which would be its special ability. Lastly, Powered Builder would have a cool gimmick where it would have a standard, your simple moveset if you're an entry, but you can plug in any of the smaller ones, get the boost that Powered Builder gives of like a defense or attack boost, but now be able to use the various raised weapons, but not have to worry about the lack of armor. Then for your unlockable rare buckles, you have Mechanical Arm. This is my other new one, based again off of a sound found in the Desire driver, and the Shark, which was the winner of a contest in a magazine only in Japan. And now, because, let's be honest, we all know the odds would be terrible, we're just going to throw in an extra super rare category for fun, because why not? So, your super rare buckles are the Jamato buckle, the Fantasy buckle, which grants wall climb, Boost Mark III, and the Geats Oneness or Oneness buckle, each of which are here because it's for the sake of gameplay they're here. You know, you have more options, but in canon, you're not necessarily just getting fantasy at random. For your unlockables in the super rare category, you can get the Geats Buster QB9 and Bujin buckle. These are small ones just like the ones before, but now they grant you movesets based off of Geats 9 and Bujin Sword. Also, an X Geats or Doom Geats recolor of either Boost Mark III or the QB9 buckle. Either or would work perfectly fine and would not complain if we got either of those. That's a lot! That is a lot of buckles. I did not realize how much there was in Geats until I made this list and then go, wow, that's a lot of options. There's so much. So, those are your loot tables. Most of which would have a lot of reused movesets, animations, so in terms of gameplay, or in terms of designing, it actually wouldn't be too bad from a developer's perspective, because it would mostly be modeling and rendering the various assets rather than trying to figure out, okay, how is he going to use this weapon, because it's either, some form of like sword, or you're blocking, or you're punching, nothing too crazy overall, so it allows a lot of, you can have all this variety without having the extra workload. You may have also noticed I didn't go over any actual special abilities, for the most part, on any of these buckles. I wanted to leave that to you guys. In the comments, let me know if you can think of any cool abilities, or gimmicks, or whatever the case, for any of the buckles that I listed. I would love to hear your ideas, and I would love to hear any other ideas you have about this, or other Kamen Rider games for that matter. Let me know. I'd be happy to answer any questions as well if there's anything that's confusing about anything I mentioned as well. Now, it's not a Kamen Rider game if you can't be a Kamen Rider beating up evil, so there's Soul Campaign. I inspired this based off of stuff in like the Splatoon series where you have just standard campaign using those multiplayer mechanics because it's fun. Now, it's very not plot heavy. It's just a simple synopsis that would have the general get the ball rolling, and it's more or less an extended tutorial, so you can get to see the mechanics and get to experience the different game modes without going online and kind of just suffering through the trenches. So, in this campaign, a new evil rider appears, a Dark Rider. He uses the new mechanical arm buckle made from a piece of the goddess of creation, and he uses that to go through time and change things. He's able to rebuild the GGP as it was. And, of course, Geats, Tycoon, Nango, and Buffa can't have that. So they go back in time and try stopping him. But no one actually remembers them because of the time travel shenanigans, so they're marked as enemies and are fought by the various new players. You're able to regain your proper memories and realize these were Kamen Riders who saved you when you weren't in the GGP back in the original timeline. You decide to work with them to help defeat this new Dark Rider, and Geats grants you the Spear Buckle, which will be the perfect counter for a mechanical arm. You use it to defeat the evil rider and restore the timeline, saying bye to your new rider friends. Very simple plot, nothing too crazy. Again, this game wouldn't be plot heavy, it would be focused on the online anyway, so this is just here again for the fun. Wouldn't take, again, too much work, because it would just be, like, here's text box. Here's what happened. Move on. Again, nothing too crazy. And this is also the only place where you can get mechanical arm and spear. Now, the other things that I didn't mention, but technically did mention, you just kind of had to infer, so I'm just going to go over just a couple bullet points real quick. For one, customizable character. You'll have a normal human appearance in your generic DGP outfit, maybe some hair options, some eyes, a few cosmetics, nothing too crazy, because you'd mostly be in your rider form most of the time. Which, you'll have a customizable rider helmet. The helmets in Geats are just the upper half. The lower half mouth guards are provided from the armor, so you would just have a blank kind of canvas to work with. You'll be given general shapes, maybe like a fox silhouette, cat silhouette, the bears, whatever the case, and you can add extra cosmetic pieces that you unlock, some new colors, designs, whatever the case, a lot of just texturing, and that would be kind of the bulk of your unlockables throughout the game, is just more stuff, so you can make your rider the way you want it to look. And then, going off of Splatoon again, we're going to take this from Splatoon 3, a free battle pass. A built-in way to basically earn stuff and want you to keep coming back to play and not just kind of like drop it after some time. I think it'd be a fun incentive, and I think it would work with this. I'm not a fan of battle passes. I feel like most people aren't, but I think it actually works with the Desire Grand Prix kind of like ideology, which is why I threw that in here. Lastly, remix music from the Geats OST, because the Geats OST is really good. I did a whole video about that at that. I should also probably mention what happens when you win. I left that at the end because, you don't get to see the prize till you do win. So what do you win? That's where those cosmetics and all that come in. It's simple. Your desire, your prize, is just another unlockable. Maybe some rare ones, some buckles, whatever the case. Nothing too crazy. And with that all being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching. This was actually a lot of fun to make. I've heard a lot of discourse online about people wanting a Geats video game, because we haven't got a new Kamen Rider video game in a long time. I really agree. Geats would work really well in a video game format, especially since it was based around a game show. So, if you want to see me talk more about Kamen Rider or video games or whatever the case, let me know. I've been creating a lot of these fan idea games, whatever the case, however you want to call them. So let me know if you want to see me do more of that as well. And yeah. Make sure you guys are subscribing and sharing this video with your friends and family. Helps the channel a ton. And with all that being said, I want to thank you all so much for watching one more time. And have a lovely day.